Recorded live from the heart of the Bakken, it's the Williston Works Podcast.
Welcome to the Williston Works Podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston, North Dakota. Williston Works brings you in-depth discussions with the entrepreneurs, small business owners, and investors who are getting it done in Western North Dakota. I'm your host, Sean Wenko, Executive Director of the Williston Economic Development Office. Today we got Falon Justice with us. She is the owner of Bride to Be and More. Falon, great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Are you a native of Williston?
I am. Born and raised. Lived here my whole life. Well, I moved away for 18 months for college, but I came right back.
Okay, and as we said, current owner of Bride to Be and More. What is Bride to Be and More?
Bride to Be and More is just like the name says. We sell bridal gowns, formal gowns. We do tuxedo and suit rentals. We have high quality shoes, bridal accessories, a little bit of everything.
How did you get into that business? I mean, is that something like when you went to school, you said, hey, someday I'm going to own a bridal store? Or?
Well, when I went to school for radio broadcasting. That's what my degree is in.
The entrepreneurial spirit. So you went for broadcasting.
Yep.
And how did you morph into owning a bridal store?
I went from broadcasting, which is not exactly a high-paying field in Williston, North Dakota. So I actually waitressed and worked retail for the majority of my life. I bought most of my prom gowns. I brought my wedding gown at Bride to Be, and Joe had discussed a couple times that she was getting ready to retire. And I told her that if she ever really was, to get me some numbers, and I was interested in. She called me end of December in 2018 and said she was done. And I told her, just, okay, get me some numbers, let's see. And I immediately called Keith over at Small Business, and he helped me figure some stuff out, because it definitely was like pretty fast, and it was a lot.
Yeah, it did move quickly. And it's funny. You know, Keith has been getting mentioned a lot during these podcasts, you know, and Keith Olson, Regional Director for Small Business Development Center. He helps with business plans, business startups. He helps make connections with some of the lenders that are out there. For us, with our, with the Star Fund, because I think we worked with you a mini match program, or did we do a flex pace program?
We did flex pace.
Okay, so we did the flex pace with you, and again, with our programs, we always require that the entrepreneur goes through Keith first.
Yep.
Because he can put those numbers together and really put it to paper to where you can see what you're going to have to do, or what you're going to have to do in sales, and what you're going to incur in some of the costs and stuff. So, we talked to, like I said, Keith's numbers, his name's been coming up quite a bit, and he's a very valuable asset for this area, and it's a free service that he provides. So it's always good. So you met with Keith. What did Keith have to say initially when you talked with him?
Well, he told me that it was obviously something that is needed in Williston. Like, we're actually the only bridal store, formal wear store, within like a 2-hour radius. I think there's one or two other places, one in Alexander, one in Sydney, that can do like tuxedo and suit rentals. But otherwise, we literally are, the closest is Dickinson, other than Minot, and then all the way up into, I had people coming from Glasgow. And then we do everything in between for weddings, and I have people coming in from Minot to shop for wedding gowns and whatnot, which is fantastic. And that's 100%, what we love hearing that.
Well, and we get that quite a bit, because you had mentioned the trade area when you're talking about Glasgow, and even coming from Minot, because we get a lot of questions from potential people that want to open a retail store here, or they want to do something here. And if you look at just the population of Williston, that's not going to get it done. Right. And you've got to look at the trade draw, and everybody here that's selling goods and services, they're drawing from what I want to say a 70 to 80 mile radius, even as far as like some of our larger retails drawing from 100 and 120 miles. So
absolutely,
there's a big draw out there that there's a big pool that we have to take into account. So when you're out there looking at developing in this area, you have to look at this from a regional perspective, because we're just really rural. So you brought that up. But so with Bride to Be, you moved that store. So it was one place. Where did that decision come from, and how did you get to where you're at now?
I've always wanted to have a business downtown. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely 100% like community driven. Like, I'm never going to leave Williston. This is where my heart is. This is where my family is. This is where I'm going to stay. Downtown Williston has always been a dream of mine, to have a business and be downtown. And when this space was available in the Renaissance on Main building, I couldn't it took a while to get everything to work right, but it was the exact spot that I wanted and that I needed.
Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot here real quick. We're gonna go because you said Williston is where you're going to stay. Mm-hmm. So what is it about the community?
The community itself is it's kind of its own living, breathing organism. Growing up here, I've seen it my whole life. Like, I have a very service-driven heart. That's how I was raised. That's what I know. That's how I raise my children. But it always comes down to, if there's an issue, if there's a problem, if there's a need, the community itself will stop, do what they can, and rally behind that and make it happen. Whether it's raising funds, whether it's making something else happen. Like, case in point was there was an awful lot of negative publicity coming out and about, and it's really hard to see that and watch that coming from like a local standpoint, and knowing, and it felt personal. So there was a group of like 10 of us that decided, nope, we're not doing this anymore, and we started Williston Friendly Faces, which then became we partnered with Williston Community Builders, and we merged, and now we're Williston Community Builders. And we work hard, we do fundraisers, and we give back to the community. That's what it's all about. We just donated $100,000 to the Freedom Wall Monument up at the cemetery, which is also another thing that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's just proof that it doesn't take a corporation or whatever else to make a difference, to make a change. And that's 100% how Williston is. It doesn't matter who you are, how many it is, you can get out there and make that change, and people are going to help you get there. Yep,
absolutely. So let's jump back to Bride to Be. So you'd mentioned you went into the Renaissance on Main building.
Yes.
Again, so you got in there. What were some of the challenges of getting the door open? From the point you picked out, here you are, we're going to Renaissance on Main. Now we're going to get the door open. What were the challenges you faced?
I was in a really unique situation as to where, in my head, I do not have patience. I'm that gal that gets out there and I will just make it happen. I'm a doer. I really struggle to sit and wait for things. So for me, the whole process of doing the business plan through the banks and everything else seemed to take forever. We started in February. We closed October 5th, which in buying a business world is actually a really short period of time. Felt like forever. That was the number one hurdle that we ran into, was it's a great space, and there were other people that were interested, and I wasn't comfortable putting earnest money down, putting the deposit down or whatnot, until we knew for sure that we were a go and we were going to move forward. So it was really, the hardest part was being patient and waiting. I don't do that well.
What do you think the future looks like for that downtown area of Williston?
On this, like specifically for the South Main portion, I would say we're definitely pushing to increase more retail. We want to have more retail spaces down there. You want to have more traffic that way, more foot traffic and whatnot. Obviously, that is better for everybody. It's a little different for me. I'm a specialty store, so I don't normally have a ton of people walking in just to do like an impulse buy. But there's a ton of great spaces available downtown. And I feel like that's really, and like with the Hula Grill and whatnot being that block down, there is a lot of room for retail spaces to move in down there and to really increase traffic and make it, instead of like, downtown isn't a 2-block radius. It's a considerable radius. It's technically would be considered, I think, from like the Niemont building all the way down to the train station.
Well, there's such opportunity. Again, we talk about Star Fund programs. We have the mini match program out there where we'll match dollar for dollar up to a certain dollar amount. We'll do the interest buy down program for larger loan amounts. We have a facade incentive program for older buildings if people want to upgrade their facade. And then we have the state has the Renaissance Zone program. So there's a lot of opportunities to get into downtown and get some business started. Because I'm with you. I think this thing is on the tipping point. And I think we're going to see South Main really transform over the next couple of years.
I really hope so. There's some really great spaces down there.
I don't think, the stuff that is available, I don't think it'll be vacant for long with the activity we're seeing. One final question for you. In your venture from start to finish here, if there was one piece of advice that you could offer to developers and investors, entrepreneurs that are getting into this area, what's that piece of advice that you would offer?
100%. Going through small business with Keith was the best thing we could have done. We qualified we got with the Star Fund. We did get that flex pace, which is huge when it comes to like our interest rate on our loan and how it buys that down and whatnot. But not only that, but just his knowledge when it comes to different things and his contacts that he has throughout the community and different people. And he can say, well, this person over here, or with us for Bridal specifically, he can pull up numbers over the nation and show competitors and give me forecasts of what my numbers should be like and where I should be.
Well, and another thing I want to add, also with your store Bride to Be, is that tells the story of Williston is that, there still might be this image that's out there that Williston is just a bunch of male oil workers living in this town. That wouldn't be the case, and that's not the case to the demand you're seeing, because they're not the ones that are buying bridal gowns for weddings.
Absolutely.
So, you're starting to see a good diversification come into this area. Thanks for listening to the Williston Works podcast. This is brought to you by the City of Williston. If you're a developer, business owner, entrepreneur, or site selector and would like to learn more about the opportunities in Williston, give us a call and we'll help you make it happen. Like and subscribe for more podcasts. And to learn more about Williston, visit willistondevelopment.com. I'm Sean Wanko, Executive Director of the Williston Economic Development Office. We will see you next time.